So today we are going to discuss what we have left in the previous class. We were discussing greedy algorithms, right? So we have started with the basic introduction of greedy, what is the technique, and how greedy works, in which scenario we should use greedy algorithms, etc. We have also discussed the control abstraction. Control abstraction means the general method of solving any problem using greedy algorithm. Yes. Okay. So first thing, we have also discussed this a demonstrative problem statement in order to understand the greedy problem terminologies. Then we have started with the actual problem statement, that is a knapsack problem. As we know, uh, the greedy solves the optimization problem. So optimization means either you are minimizing something or maximizing something. So here is the case of an optimization problem which actually tries to maximize the profit while selecting the object from the list of objects available. So the problem setup is something like this. You have given an objects or series of object, I should say n number of object, and one knapsack. Knapsack means a kind of a bag. Each object has some weight and value associated, and at the same time, the knapsack is also having some capacity associated with it. So capacity is actually a number, a figure which tells you about a maximum load a knapsack can carry. Now what is the problem statement? Problem statement is to fill a knapsack with object such that the profit is maximized. Now we know that every object has some value associated. So now in order to maximize this, you should select an object in such a way that total value of all the object within a knapsack is maximized, subjected to the condition that the total weight of all the object is less than the capacity of the knapsack. So this is our actual problem scenario. There are two variations. This is also we have discussed. One is called a fractional knapsack problem, in which object can be broken apart. It can be broken into pieces, and you can take a part of an object into a knapsack. Whereas there is something called zero-one knapsack. It means that selection is binary. So either you can pick the object, or you have to skip the object. So that is called a zero-one knapsack problem. Okay, everyone is facing my voice problem. There are two comments actually. Okay. Hello. Okay, there's a mail. Hello. Is it clear now? Okay, fine. So we have been discussing these two versions of a problem statement. We have also discussed that uh, fractional knapsack is a problem which can be solved using greedy. So let us go further now. Before we look it into this slide, what I want is let's have some formal discussion. There are two objects available. One is, let us take a practical example. There are two objects available, which one is a Parle-G of 130 gram, and second is a iPhone of 200 gram. Parle-G cost 5 rupees, and iPhone cost, let us say, 20,000 rupees. So which object you should pick? Anyone? Okay, it's very simple, right? And what is the reason? Cost, fine. But at the same time, we are also interested in minimizing the weight because we want to increase the number of object also. So Parle-G cost or weight of the Parle-G is just 100 gram, whereas weight of an iPhone is 200 gram. So how do you identify that whether I should go for a lower weight object or higher value object? So there is a very strong mathematics involved, right? You can always find out the ratio. What should be that ratio? Obviously, what you want is you want to find out what is the per unit value. Let us say weight is in gram. So what you are interested is in find out what is the per gram value. So that will exactly will let you know that which object you should pick. So if you find out a per gram value of iPhone, then it is 10,000 by 200, right? And if you find out the per gram value of Parle-G, then it is 5 by 100. So obviously 5 by 100 is much lesser than 10,000 by 200. And that's why you always pick an object which has higher ratio of profit. In greedy terms, it is known as value density. So first step in order to solve this problem statement using greedy is to find out the value density for each object. So let us say if there are 100 objects, then the first step will be find out, obviously you have been given a value, you have been given weight of each object. So the first step is you find out value density of each and every object. What is the next step? Any idea? So what will do I next? What will be my next step? Which object should be selected first? Yes, anyone? Anyone? I have value density of each and every object. So what should I do next? From where I should start? Let me give you an example, right? So I'm sharing you a Google document actually. So it's better we understand it by example only. So let us say we have this this is my object number. So object, then value, then weight. Then I will find out value density. So let us say object 1, value is 100, weight is 20. Object 2, value is 150, weight is 15. Object 3, value is 50, weight is 5. Let us say 10. Object 4, value is 250, weight is, let us say 12. Okay. So the first step is I will find out VD, which is equal to value divided by weight. So that will give me per unit value. So if you divide 100 by 20, get 5. Here you get 10. Again you get 5. And then you get 12. 250 by 12. So that is 20 point something, right? So obviously what we are interested is in the last column. Okay. So now you have 4 options available. Let us say your capacity of knapsack is 25. So that means you can fill a weight of 25 gram inside a knapsack, right? So obviously from which object you will start? 4. Okay. Because it has highest value density. Then what will be your next object? Yes, which one will be your next object? 2. Because it has second highest value density. So ultimately what you are doing over here, you are actually performing a sorting operation on value density in which order? Ascending order. Right. So the first step was count or calculate value density for each object. Second step, you sort each object on value density, but that is in decreasing order. Now what you will do? You will pick first object. Okay, you will put inside a knapsack. So let us assume that currently nothing is there inside the knapsack. So let us assume this is my knapsack. So currently my knapsack is empty, right? So what I am doing now, I am putting this object number 4 inside the knapsack. So that means I am putting weight of 12 inside the knapsack, right? Now, so that means I have put this particular object inside a knapsack. Okay. Now which one is next? Next is object number 2. Now question is, when I put this object inside the knapsack, what will be the total weight of the knapsack? It is 12 now. Now I am putting this 15. I am putting this 15, so that becomes 27, not 22. It becomes 27. And what is the capacity? Is 25. So am I allowed to put or select this object entirely? Obviously the answer is no, because I cannot go beyond 25. So fine, what is the next thing which I required is I need to keep a track of remaining weight a knapsack can carry. Initially, your knapsack can carry 25. If I select this 12 here, then I will make it 25 minus 12, that is 13. Right? I can write it another way also. What is the current weight of knapsack? So initially current weight was 0. Remaining weight was 25 minus 0, so that is 25. Now when I put this 12 inside the knapsack, this becomes 12. This becomes 25 minus 12, so it becomes 30. So every time I will check, before I select this object, I will check whether the total weight of that object is less than the remaining weight a knapsack can carry. So 15 is obviously not less than 13. Now this is a case of a fractional knapsack problem. So instead of keeping this object, I will take a fraction of that object. Now how to find out that fraction? What is the total weight? 15. What is the remaining weight? 13. So that means I will simply pick, I will simply pick 13 out of 15. So if I add one more column, insert column right, this is my selection. Right. So I have selected entirely, so that's why it is 1. Then I am at this point, so now I cannot select 13 entirely, so I will make it 13 divided by 15. That turns out to be 0.86. Right. This is 20.83. Okay. So that means I am allowed to take 0.86 fraction of this object. So if I then multiply 0.86 divide into its total weight, so that will be 13. So that means this is now 13 and 12. So this becomes 25. This is 25 and this becomes 0. That means now a knapsack cannot carry any further object. So this is how my algorithm will terminate. So my algorithm will terminate over here. So now let us try to put this inside an equation form or inside an algorithmic form. First, you should understand what we have done. First step was we have calculated value density. Second step was we have sorted this. Third step was we have started with empty knapsack. So that means the current weight was 0. Remaining weight was 25 minus 0. Then we have selected first object. We have first checked whether weight of that object is less than the current capacity of the object. So 12 is less than 25. So obviously this object will be selected entirely. So we have put that object inside a knapsack. So let us say this is my represented by x. So that means x of 4 is equal to 1. That indicates this fourth object is selected entirely. Then the next object in my sorting array is the object number 2. So I will once again check what is the weight of that object 15. What is the remaining weight of the knapsack? So it is 25 minus 12, so that is 13. 15 is not less than 13, so now I need to calculate the fraction. So what I will do, I will calculate the fraction of 15, so that is remaining weight is 13, so 13 divided by 15, that turns out to be 0.86. So x of 2 is 0.86, which indicates that I will take 0.86 fraction of object number 2. When I do this, obviously my knapsack is full. Because my knapsack is full, I am not going to look inside the other object because I cannot carry it further. So that means now my algorithm will terminate. So then if you calculate what is the total weight or value we have gained, then it is 250 multiplied by 1, so that is 250. And so the value gained, let us insert one more column, actual value gained, right? So this is, we have selected entirely, so we will get total value of that object. So 250 multiplied by 1, so that is 250. Then you have 150 multiplied by 0.86. So you can have 150 multiplied by 0.86, so that is 129. This is obviously initially 0. 0 indicates that that object is not selected. So this is also not selected. So value gained from this object is 0. Value gained from this object is 0. So the total value which you are gaining is 379, right? And this has to be maximum. No matter what combination you will be using, this will be your maximum. So the final result is something like this. Your x is, object 1 is 0, object 2 is 0.86, object 3 is 0, and object 4 is 1. So this is your output x, right? I hope this example is clear. Any doubt in this? Anyone? If anyone has any doubt, they can raise. Fine. Okay. So now let us discuss the algorithm. I hope now you are looking at so now you are looking at this screen with knapsack problem. Right. So let us focus on this right part, that is an algorithm part. So what we have done, we have first initialized the algorithm. There are the name of the algorithm, it's a fractional knapsack. We have passed 4 parameters, small v, small w, capital W, and small n. Small v is a vector. Vector means it's an array. So array of values. So if you see that previous example, then or here also you can see, so this 60, 100 and 120. So this is one array of attributes. Second is weight. Weight represents the weight of the object. So here you can see 10, 20 and 30. These are the weights. Then you have capacity. Capacity W over here is 50. And N. N indicates the number of objects. So here we have 3 objects. So this is my setup. First step, what I am doing, I am making sure that there is currently no object in a knapsack. So what I am doing, for I equal to 1 to n, x of I is equal to 0. 0 means that object is not selected. So currently, out of all these 3 objects, no object is selected. Then I am using one variable to keep a track of the current weight of a knapsack, right? So this variable weight will give us a current weight of a knapsack. Then what I am doing, I am calculating the value density. So I think this is an indentation problem. ये value density आपका अंदर होना चाहिए. So it is inside this for loop. So what I am doing, for I equal to 1 to n, calculate value density is equal to V by W. Now V by W means you are actually computing the value with respect to unit weight. So that gives you value density. Then the next step was, as we have discussed, the next was to sort. Now, instead of a direct sorting, we'll be using indirect sorting. We'll be discussing why indirect sorting when we actually uh, understand the implementation of this. But you can simply write sort as well instead of indirect sorting as over here. But indirect sorting means actually you are sorting on index. So I think first I should discuss that. It requires proper understanding. Okay. So let us consider the same example, or let us okay. So let us say we have this example. Okay, we'll not write in this way, we'll write in another way. It's a table. Okay, so let us say what is indirect sorting. We want to sort this 12, 5, 3, 6, and 8. Indirect sorting means instead of sorting values, you are actually sorting index. So if it's an array, it means that your index starts with 0. When you are implementing a C program or any program, your index starts with 0. So this is my value, right? So this is my value, this is index. Normally what happens when you sort something, what you do is you write something like this. So this becomes 3, 5, 6, 8, and 12. But when it comes to the indirect sorting, instead of maintaining this, what you will be doing is you will actually, your value will remain as it is, but your index will get sorted. So what happens? Which one is the smallest one? 3. What is the index of 3? 2. So this is my first element. Then 5. What is the index of 5? 1. So this is my second element. Then 6. What is the index? 3. Then 8. So what is the index? 4. And 12. What is the index? 0. So what we have done, my value will stay as it is, but my index is get sorted. So whenever I want to access the value in sorted order, I'm not simply writing value of I. What I will be writing is value of index of I. Now instead of index, let us say this is my some temporary array. So this is T. So instead of accessing the values like this, if I access values like this, then I will get the value in sorted order. Why? So if you see that when your I is equal to 0, T of 0 means this is my 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. T of 0 means 2. So value of 2 means 3. Right? Similarly, where I is incremented, so I becomes 1. T of 1 is 1 and value of 1 is 5. Then 2, T of 2 is 3, value of 3 is 0, 1, 2 and 3, 6. So it means that I can access the values in sorted order by using this indirect sorting. So here we are not actually sorting the values, we are sorting the index. So the reason why we are doing this is basically this is an object. So you are not going to actually sort an object, it means that you are not going to actually change the position of an object. Instead of that, you will maintain an index and you will actually look it inside the index and you find out which one is the highest value density object. So this was just the purpose of why we are using indirect sorting instead of the regular sorting technique or a direct sorting technique. So let us now once again go back to the algorithm. So what we are doing, we have allocated some temporary array T, which is mainly used for this index, which will be used for sorting. So T is basically a temporary array, which is an index of value density. So then you will apply indirect sorting on this value density along with T, and there are n number of elements. So this is actually another algorithm you are calling. Now this sorting can be anything. It can be bubble sort, it can be selection sort, it can be merge sort, quick sort, anything. But what here we are trying to say is that you are supposed to sort the elements on value density. Once your elements are sorted, what you will be doing, and obviously this you are doing in decreasing order. Decreasing order means the highest will be first. So then what you are doing for I equal to 1 to n, forget about this right now. For I equal to 1 to n, that means you are starting from the first object. Then you are checking the value of, the weight of that object. So weight of T of I. Obviously, first object means the object with the highest value density. So that you can get it by using T. So weight of T of I plus current weight. Current weight is initially 0. So weight plus weight of T of I. If a knapsack can accommodate that object, this is what this statement means. If a knapsack can accommodate the object entirely, if entire object, that is weight of T of I plus current weight of the knapsack, if it is less than the capacity W, then what we will be doing? X of T of I is equal to 1. So that means whatever you have done over here, X of 0 is equal to 0. Now we will simply change the index of that selected or that first object. So X of T of I becomes 1. Then you will, obviously you have selected this object, so we will increment the current weight of an knapsack. So my weight becomes weight plus weight of T of I. So this condition is applied when your knapsack can carry that object entirely. But when your object cannot be carried entirely, that means for the last object most of the time, what we are doing is we will find out the fraction. So fraction find out करने के लिए सबसे पहले what is the requirement? First find out the remaining weight an knapsack can carry. Remaining means the capacity minus current. So the capacity is W minus current. So that will give me the remaining weight divided by total weight. So that will give me some value of X. And obviously, once you are in this condition or once you are in this part, your current weight is actually the capacity of the knapsack. That means now your knapsack can no longer carry any other object. So that will actually should terminate your algorithm. So that's why you are adding actually another constraint over here. First was you look for every object. So for I equal to 1 to n, that was the first case. But at any point of time, if your knapsack is full, then there is no point of looking inside the other object. You have to simply terminate. So that's why you are actually adding one more condition. What is that? If I is less than n, at the same time, the current weight of a knapsack is less than capacity. That means a knapsack can carry something. If a knapsack can carry something, then and then you go inside this loop. Otherwise, you simply come out of it. So what happens now? You have some values of x, and that will be your output. So this is all about a fractional knapsack problem, which is very simple actually. The reason why I am spending a lot of time is this is how it is to be understood. I may not have a liberty to discuss each algorithm in this much detail due to some time constraint, but you need to understand what exactly we are doing in every algorithm. You need to understand each and every step of that algorithm. So let us once again put this example into a place. We have three objects, value some given, weight is given. First step is you find out V by W. So that will give us the density. Then you have some value of X. Sorry, this is the second part. This we are going to compute. So the next is you will sort this. It turns out to be there already sorted, right? So it's 6, 5, and 4. So we start with the first object because the current weight of that object is 10. So 10 is less than 50. So we'll select the entirely. Then next is 20. 20 is 50 minus 10. 20 is less than 50 minus 10. So 40. We'll select entirely. Then next comes 30. Remaining weight is 50 minus 10 minus 20. So remaining weight is 20. The weight of the object is 30. So you cannot select this entirely. So what we will be doing, remaining weight divided by total weight. So 20 divided by 30, that gives you 0.66. So that will be our output 1, 1 and 0.66. And if you want to compute what is the total value gain, then 1 multiplied by 60, 1 multiplied by 100 and 120 multiplied by 0.66. So that will give you this. I hope this is clear, everyone. Or any doubt till this point? Any doubt? Okay. So then let us discuss the next step. Next step is to find out the time complexity, right? Now you might have understood that how to calculate the time complexity. Uh, I have already told you that how to count the steps. So normally whenever you are counting the step, okay, first let me know whether asymptotic analysis has started by Sushma madam. Big O, big omega, etc. Is it been discussed with you? Fine. Okay. So the first step is to count the step. Okay. So this for loop, if you see, the for loop will actually uh, running n times. So that means 1 to n. So that's n plus 1. And this statement will run n times. So this is n plus 1 and n. This is a simple statement, single statement. So it will have count as 1. Then you have another for loop for I equal to 1 to n. Inside that you have value density is equal to v by w. So once again it is 1 to n, so it is n plus 1. This is n. Then you have some allocation, so let us keep the step count for that. Then you have a sorting. So sorting means here you are actually calling another algorithm. So let us say we are using bubble sort or selection sort or a merge sort. And out of all the sorting technique, the merge sort is the most efficient. Actually, the quick sort is, but in average case time complexity, the merge sort is most efficient algorithm, and its time complexity is big O n log n. So this is the time complexity of sorting. So for this particular case, let us assume that time complexity is big O n log n. Then you have another for loop. Inside that you are actually having for I equal to 1 to n and weight is less than w. And if you are counting the upper bound means the maximum, or the worst case, I should say. In worst case, this loop will run n times because it is 1 to n. Obviously, it will stop before that due to this condition. But in worst case, it will run n times. So obviously, one more time for exit control. So it is n plus 1. Then worst case again, this will run n time, n. So obviously when you add all this together, whatever equation you will be getting is something like an plus b plus the time required for indirect sorting. So an plus b is actually big of n because it's a linear equation an plus b, and the time required for sorting is big of n log n. And whenever you are actually calculating the time complexity for the entire algorithm, the higher order term is considered as a time complexity. So it means that the time complexity of this algorithm is equal to big of n log n. So almost the time is only required by the sorting. If you consider from the performance perspective, the sorting will tell you how fast this algorithm will going to execute, right? And this you will observe in many algorithms, and that's why we are considering sorting technique or searching technique or a sorting algorithm or searching algorithms as very important algorithms, because most of the algorithm require this kind of an operation where you want to sort something or you want to search something. So if you have that technique efficient one, then you can always have an improved version of the other algorithm as well. So here also, if you can see, if you can optimize the sorting performance, this algorithm's performance will be optimized. So the point over here is that the time complexity of this algorithm is big of n log n, which is actually the time complexity of this sorting operation, right? So is this clear, time complexity? Why it is big of n log n? It's higher order term, and the highest order term is n log n. Remember n, what is the lowest order? It's 0. Then you have log n, then you have n, then you have n log n, then you have n square, then you have n cube. So this is the order of, you will see these as well, you will come to know this as well. But at the same time, you can always see that something is multiplied by n is always greater than n, right? Because this is not going to be less than 1, it is always going to be greater than 1. Right? So the time complexity for this algorithm is big of n log n. Any doubt? Has any doubt to anyone? Otherwise, I will stop the session. It's already time. Okay, regarding your practical or practicals, the assignment is already there on the classroom. What you are supposed to do is just go through that assignment. There are some problem statements which you already know actually. So there is a bubble sort, there is a selection sort. So you already know that how to execute bubble sort. You've already done that in data structure as well. So you can simply review that and do it again in algorithm. We will have a strategy for submission as well. Okay, we'll let you know how and what form you are supposed to submit your programs. But at this time, you just start coding. That's the most important thing. Language of your own choice. You can go for C, C++, Java, Python, anything for algorithms. Platform of your own choice, but the Linux platform is recommended. So those who are having Windows, just try to install Linux Ubuntu at your desktop. If you wish, we can have a session on that as well, that how to have a dual boot operating system in your machine. So just let me know if you want to perform that session, or I can share some videos for that as well. But you must have a Ubuntu OS installed on your desktop. And before that, if there is someone who is not accessible to his or her desktop, that also should let me know actually in person, that you don't have a computer at your home, then it's actually things to be discussed, right? So because as we all know that the practical comes at your own uh, side. So there will not be any session on practical in algorithms. Obviously, there will be some discussions, but there will not be any dedicated sessions for practicals. So you have to do on your own only. And if you don't have this kind of, or if you have this kind of a technical limitation, then it requires a further discussion. So just let me know if anyone is not having a computer or a laptop at your place, then let me know in person. Otherwise, second thing I told you that you must install Ubuntu in your OS or in your desktop or a laptop as a dual boot. I'm not saying that you should remove Windows, but you should have a dual boot operating system. And if you want a session on that, we can have a live session or we can have a, or I can share some videos for that as well so that you can do it on your own. So that's all about this session. Goodbye.